Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast for Week Ahead, the news show. With me, Liam, and my friend Tommy.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us for episode 19 of the week ahead. It's good to be here, and it's good to be discussing the news once again with y'all.
Yep, it is July 14th. Hope everyone's having a good day. It's a little rainy out right now here in Girard. Not where Tommy's at, but it'll depend where you at. Probably got some sad rain here coming in. Not probably too big of storms. Didn't last too long, but it hit pretty hard. We got puddles and stuff. But I hope, like I said, everyone's having a great Monday. Rest of your weeks, 4 more days for your work week. Today our high here in Girard was 83, low was 64. Tomorrow will be light clouds, 86, 70. Wednesday and Thursday will be thunderstorms. Wednesday 80, 70. Thursday 83, 68. Friday will just be rainy. Excuse me. Saturday I will be light clouds, 81, 67. Nice day Saturday. Sunday will be a little bit of rain, 80 and 67. Monday will be 80 and 64. Next Monday, light clouds. So weather's looking pretty good for rain. Thunderstorms kind of suck. Nice for the gardens though. Hope everyone's having a good week. Don't forget, before we start in with stocks and stuff, drop a like on our YouTube. That really helps us out in the algorithm. We have our Facebook below. Make sure you follow that. If you could share some of our videos, that's great. All the videos that we put on here are also what's a proper word? They kind of like get saved on video on demand, so you could always watch them after. Same with all of our other shows that we have, like our Northeast Ohio Sports Show on Thursday and our Healthy Life Living Show on Sundays. Tommy will go into stocks. We have stocks for the day above us.
Yeah, so stocks say the Dow ended up 81 points or 0.18%. Nasdaq was up 55 points, 0.27%. S&P 500 was up 8.8 or 0.14 points.
Mm-hmm.
In totality, all of the major indexes were up over last week by slight percentages.
All right, sounds good. We'll go into our funny topics. And like today we had a little bit of green for stocks above us, but small. Not even like 0.2% for the Dow. Nasdaq was 0.27. Russell was 0.67. S&P 0.14. Pretty small for the day. Not good. The small stuff going on. With everything going on right now, not many people buying stuff because of the economy. Like we're seeing right now with houses, it's the first time there's more houses in the market than buyers, so that's good. Become a buyer's market here in a bit. We'll go into a funny news topic. It's about how Trump on Truth and X, even the White House, posted him as Superman, which is kind of crazy. I wonder if they can get like even sued for that, but I don't know. It's a crazy photo of Trump Superman. He even looks skinnier in the photo, which is crazy. Like his chin doesn't have like giblets it normally does. But it said he with the post, it said the symbol of hope, truth, justice, the American way, Superman Trump. New Superman movie coming out, which is kind of weird because Superman's an illegal alien, and Trump is it. So interesting, and everything else is Superman. I'm not big with comic books, but having Superman like be Trump's is crazy to me. This presidency is kind of just, and like his social media and like for White House social media just has always been crazy during his presidency. People just laugh at it and mock at it in the comments from all over the world. So it's good to see that part, but that's just dumb for him to do and want to do.
So I'm looking at the picture now. So like as just to repeat what you said, it says, a Trump presidency, truth, justice, and the American way, Superman, and it has the White House logo at the bottom. So let's just roll through like the
And this was on
slogans
the
one by
10th,
one.
yeah,
So
July 10th.
yeah, so you have truth, okay? Um, you know, right now we have a president of the United States, who believes that the 2020 election was stolen, that Joe Biden didn't win that election. That's not a truthful statement from our current president. The truth is that, Joe Biden legitimately won the 2020 presidential election. We have a president right now who doesn't believe that climate change is caused by humans. That's not true. Climate change, the vast 99.99999% of scientists believe that climate change is caused by humans. Our president doesn't believe that. So it's a bit ironic to see that the word truth um on this image. Justice. I when I think of justice, I don't think of Donald Trump at all. I think of the actions the Trump administration has taken with Mr. Garcia. He was denied his due process rights. He was sent to El Salvador. He was brought back here to the United States. Even the Trump administration admits that he was deported by mistake. They admitted that in federal court. But denying individuals their fundamental procedural due process rights afforded to them under the United States Constitution and states' constitutions does not seem like justice to me. The American way, to me, the American way, and let me preface this by saying, we have never, lived up to the idea of America. We never lived up to the idea that, America is just a place where everyone is welcome and that, we all come together, not based on a shared ethnicity or race, but based on a shared common idea of democracy and freedom and, mutual respect. That's the American way to me. And certainly the Trump administration does not live up to that. They're going down the rabbit hole of xenophobia, racism, bigotry, which certainly is a large part of our American history, but it's not a thing I want to go back to, and it's not something that I think should be the American way.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is ridiculous.
I agree. And like with everything we were saying with immigration, and bigotry is just crazy. So I don't know. It's just a meme, and I don't know. White House and Trump shouldn't be really posting memes. They should be focusing on the real things that are affecting us right now in our economy. Doesn't really make sense why they would be, posting stuff like that. And that kind of shows too how bad the presidency is going when they have to post BS like that. Something's going on, and it's not going out too well. You know what I mean? It's just what Epstein files. Him getting mad about that stuff. So it's just everything right now. The economy's not doing too well with jobs, with money, with stock markets. It's doing better, but it's not blowing up. And once all these tariffs actually hit, for sure, it's gonna really hurt. So I don't know, just smoke and mirrors.
It's actually, yeah, it's quite offensive too. You got to keep in mind that this picture was taken 6 days after he signed the big beautiful bill on July 4th that took people's health care away from them, their Medicaid, etc. So.
Good point.
So I guess in a respect, they are focusing on the issues, but the issues are fucking over working families in the United States, and this is what they're focused on now.
His posts
just
about
keep
that
in
are
perspective.
Just so crazy and untruthful. You know what I mean? They will always say you do every bill, a lot of times every bill in any government budget's gonna have an increase in military pay. So if you don't vote for it, they'll always be able to say that. So it's just dumb. I don't know. Thank God I don't have Truth Social or X to look at him all the time, but I wouldn't want to see it.
Yeah.
He tweets and way too much on social media. He needs to be our actual president, but he's having issues too. But we can go into our first national news topic today. Don't forget to drop a like if you're watching, share on social medias. Like we talked about, I think, last week, we're going to be talking about Alligator Alcatraz inside Florida's Everglades detention camp. We needed to talk about it. It was started a couple weeks ago, but had a lot of topics. It was basically ended up being built in days, less than 2 weeks. So it's celebrated by people who they kind of are pro immigration, and condemned by people like me and Tommy that we still want immigration. We just don't want to kick them out. Anti-immigration will be the first people. But basically, they built it in less than 2 weeks in early July in a rural airstrip within Big Cypress National Preserve, which is still kind of crazy that they're using national preserves and national parks, because Big Cypress is a national reserve for certain reasons. Just like in California, Florida, certain coastal states, they have beautiful areas that need reserves, just like any other state. Coastal regions are sometimes bigger, like the Everglades are just huge. I'm surrounded by alligators, pythons, and swamp. It can house up to 5,000 detainees, and like by the looks of it, like what was it? It feels like three or four stories with the beds. It's just crazy. It looks like modern concentration camps. Championed by Governor DeSantis and Trump, officials praised its historic speed and isolation as a deterrent. There's literally a moat around it. Some of the accusations from the detainees. I've already heard, and I've been reading up on this, about spoiled food with maggots, a lack of showers, constant bright lighting, plagued by mosquitoes and vermin. Sorry, my bad. But since they are in a swamp, there's always mosquitoes, and I don't know, I don't know. I think one of our first episodes we were talking about prisons and stuff, and one of the things that it's hard to build a prison in a wetland is because of mosquitoes. And there's been prisons in Ohio and other states that have failed because they want to cheaply build it in a wetland, and you always have mosquitoes. You can't take mosquitoes out of a wetland. That's just something that always works. Now it's like a marsh, wetland that's always harder. Non-moving water. Detainees like Cuban musician Lamzi Ferga, likened conditions to being the lab rats, complained of confiscated Bibles and worsened mental health. NBC Miami confirmed detainees received just one meal a day, often infested with worms. Like I said before, what's disgusting, and it kind of shows that we really shouldn't be treating people like this, let alone immigrants. We should be welcoming them to our country and not giving them a bad taste and just horrible experience with our country. Florida officials in the state's Division of Emergency Management deny all allegations, citing criticisms completely false and saying systems are operational. White House defended the center and housing violent illegal criminals. Immigrants, pretty much. We don't know if they're criminals, sparking outrage over its branding and approach. And a lot of it because of the lack of due process. And now we're even hearing with people on the right that they're trying to say that there's no due process for immigrants here in America. That's just not how it works. Because it's not even illegal immigrants. They're taking away visas and going after people now and green cards. So it's definitely not just illegals. And the whole approach is just disgusting. Some of it too, Florida could always deny it, but it's kind of hard to store food in a swamp and then feed it to people healthily too. You're gonna get nastiness in there, and a lot of times it's not the best funded. You know what I mean? If you build something in 2 weeks, you could build it quick, but is it properly sealed for a swamp-like condition? Probably not, especially if it rains a lot. There was photos of it already flooding and getting water in there. So very easy for for mosquitoes and other bugs to get in there. Flies, because I don't know, maggots a lot of times that come from a fly. The environmental and tribal backlash. Environmental advocates and tribal leaders and local residents have filed lawsuits and protested, citing threats to wetlands, water conservations, drinking water aquifers, and sacred indigenous lands. Environmental groups sued under an EPA, and tribal nations demanded public hearings before construction. One thing too, if it's quick construction, even if they have to be using you can't build a septic system in 2 weeks. You might be able to, but a lot of times I'm thinking it's porta-johns. If you're using porta-johns and stuff, those leak. So there's definitely going to be sewage within that wetlands, and even if they're using a septic system, you can't really use a septic system in a wetland either. So there has to be some way that they're really are contaminating this wetland, and a lot of it too is just trucks. There's so many trucks that come in and out of this area, I bet, even after construction, let alone before construction and build it, that a lot of the runoff and oil leakage from the truck itself, gasoline spillage, because they pour gas, they'll have gasoline set up there to get gas. There's so much issues. MAGA tourists have been seen taking selfies at the site, videos with over 1.5 million views, ignited backlash of critics calling it a inhumane spectacle. A lot of that's just part of the MAGA cult, his friends, and MAGA influencers or people in politics. High-profile figures like Ana Navarro and the Miami Archbishop have publicly labeled the camp racist, horrible, and oh man, that word mouth. Anti-human, I can't say it today.
Dehumanizing.
Thank you, Chief.
Dehumanizing.
I appreciate it. Drawing sharp rebuttals from the White House, but a lot of that is kind of that authoritarian control and lying. So that's kind of nasty. disgusting in my opinion. It matters because the facility is a test case on executive power, built quickly without environmental review too, so that's scary. Using emergency powers, no transparency, no community consent either from a community. So this is what people, a small government, saying we're going to come in your backyard that's a wetland and build a facility with no review, no input from you. Screw everything. So it sucks. A lot of people on the right say health matters. They say that the environment matters. That's a lie in reality. A lot of it's cope to make them feel better, in my opinion. At least that's what I see. But it's kind of disgusting to see like this happen. You know what I mean? Like once again, it's all a lie. They don't care about crap. You know what I mean? Like people that live in Florida that rely on alligators that might get poisoned from diesel runoff. That kind of sucks. It merges immigration enforcement with political theater, raising questions about human rights, preservation, and minority culture. We kind of need to consider does the camp's branding as alligator Alcatraz cross ethical lines as prisons? And I thought there's alligators around it to be scary. It's kind of dumb. Not really what we should be doing. Like we talked about before, the environmental and tribal rights being overshadowed by politics and authoritarianism, overreach by government, big government, not small government. What does this mean for immigration reform, like nationally? That people will be afraid to come here. That's not what we need. We need people to come here to help us out, help us in the workforce, top down, all levels, all classes. And please, give us your input for comments and how you guys are feeling with that, because like this one is crazy. Make sure we keep the heat going. And even like with people that voted for him, people that a lot of people don't like this, and like that's the one big thing is just like removal of due process as far as people in these camps. Like I said, it could be a test trial for just like other people too, and that's scary too. Other citizens that might not agree with Trump, and people like Matt Gaetz, who was gonna be like his attorney general or something, or maybe DA, I forget, but he had crazy ideas that he's talked about on podcasts of like just getting people and rounding up people into LGBT and putting them in camps. Like he said on podcasts, you could look that up. So like, if he didn't get out, like they just have certain extreme views that we have to be careful about and make sure we're holding those people accountable and people to have those views accountable for like what's actually going on and how it's not fair, unless they want to see the economy really crash, and that's not really fair for anyone either. So both sides. What's your input, Tommy?
A couple things. So, I like that you said, the Republicans, they're claiming to be the party of, small government, but in the meantime, we're for small government, but we're building alligator Alcatraz. Oh yeah, we're for small government, by the way, and we're going to break into your bedroom and ask you if you use water-based or silicone-based lubricant. Like, well, we're for small government though, like that's like the modern day Republican Party right now, and it's just completely ridiculous. The fact that anyone could, simply say with a straight face that Republicans are, the party that, wants the power of government to leave you alone, that's just simply not true anymore. It's certainly not true right now when it comes to immigration. It's never been true when it comes to women. But it's just a big disgusting myth. As we actually talk about, the actual substance of alligator Alcatraz, two things I would like to say about that. First, I have to preface, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I'm allowed to comment, generally about, legal issues, particularly when it pertains to the news and stuff. I'm not a lawyer. Yeah. So if we remove all of the sort of noise about, I shouldn't say noise because it's very, very legitimate. If we remove the due process concerns when it comes to Alcatraz, there is the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution, which simply says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. So like, there's lots and lots and lots of case law on that. Cruel and unusual punishment, what exactly that is, but certainly things like dismemberment, torture are cruel and unusual punishment. And cruel and unusual punishment in today's day and age is looked at historically. So what would the founders have thought was cruel and unusual? And could you make a compelling legal argument that putting people surrounded by alligators would be considered cruel and unusual by the founders? Yes. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but that's just something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I'd like to think about is
Agreed,
what you were
definitely.
talking about. Um, you were talking about sort of the conditions of food people were being served, the sort of the living conditions of these um, uh, of these concentration camps.
Mm-hmm.
The United States Constitution is mainly a document that prohibits the government from taking acts against an individual citizen. One of the very, very, very few exceptions to that is when the United States Constitution per- mandates, gives the government a duty to take care of somebody. Um, it provides an obligation to the government to do something, is when a citizen is in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the Constitution mandates that a prisoner in a prison is treated well and safely and has their basic needs met. That's one of the few instances in constitutional law where the government has to do something to be within the letter of the constitutional command.
Mm-hmm.
So so when I'm hearing all these things about bad food, roaches, maggots, alligators. Like, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just sort of commenting on this but it's very, very interesting. And I would hope that, and I'm almost 100% positive that, actual attorneys, who went to better law schools than me are looking very, very closely at these issues right now. But it's just disgusting what's going on, and it's just it's yet another example of the cruelty of the Trump administration.
Yeah. Sounds good. Do you want to like your input? Especially knowing about the amendments, because I didn't know that. So, I mean, it makes sense. I knew about cruel and unusual punishment. It makes sense how, like, you can't apply it here, and especially with prisons. And I would agree, especially with food. You know what I mean? That's why, like, prison conditions matter, and that's kind of been, like, I think that people start talking about more, too, on both sides, that we wanted less people in prison and less people, like, better prison conditions as a whole. So, this isn't it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Most terror prisons are built in a wetlands on a swamp, so that's what Trump
Right.
wanted to do
And
without environmental reviews. Is crazy. That's overreach and sad, but that's America right now and how Trump is.
yep. When you go on to the next national topic.
Yep, that works for me.
Okay. Okay. So Ruley introduces resolution to designate Trump for Trump's unshakable courage. So on July 13th, 2024, there was an attempt on Donald Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania, and Congressman Michael Ruley, who represents south of it's south of Trumbull County, and it goes down south to like the Ohio River. Michael Ruley is introducing a resolution to make that day Faith and Defiance Day in honor of former President Trump's response to the assassination. So, I'm not going to go over the incident. Everyone already knows the incident. The president was shot several times. There were several people that died in the crowd behind him. I'm by no means a fan of the president, but I completely condemn political violence of all kind.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a way to express disagreement in democracy. So, but what Ruley here is doing is just sort of, it's taking this to a whole other level of like not just like condemning political violence, which is the correct thing to do. That like I'm a not like nonviolence is the correct way to approach social issues, political issues, etc. But
Mm-hmm.
what Ruley is doing is he's taking the events that happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and essentially kind of like make it into like it can't be described any other way, into like a cult like spectacle. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Agreed.
using words like unshakable courage. You know
I mean, no other president that was shot or even assassinated and killed had a special day. So, for cult-like behavior for the Trumpies
no,
about this shows.
right. Um, Yeah, so like Ruley gave some commentary on this. He said, so Ruley emphasized that the world held its breath when Trump was shot, then rallied when he stood up defiantly. Asserted that the event embodied American virtues, faith, and defiance, and that Trump's survival was divine protection. Okay? So let's just talk about that for a little minute. So like faith and defiance, like as American virtues, like how does Trump represent faith and defiance? Like are we talking about like religious faith? Like the dude was found guilty of sexual assault in New York City. You know what I mean?
Had like three wives, four wives. I forget.
Yeah, and the only reason he wasn't found guilty of rape in New York City was because oral sex was not considered rape under that old law in New York City. Okay, that's why it's not. That's why it's like sexual assault, sexual misconduct. Okay, so but that's a faithful guy, or like come on, or defiance, like I don't know, I think just at the end of the day, this just shows that we're dealing with cult-like behavior from the Republican Party, and we're also just dealing with like a deep unseriousness. Like I said previously, on July 4th, they kicked millions of people off their Medicaid, and now they're moving on to stuff like this. Previously our former state representative Mike Loychek tried to rename Mosquito Lake Trump Lake. It's just a giant shit show. Okay, and these people are not going to solve our problems. They're just going to keep coming up with ridiculous bullshit that we'll have to keep talking about on this show. So that's what I like to say about this.
That Trump Superman photo. It's just cultist behavior, smoke and mirrors to not really think about it.
And Michael Ruley is a piece of shit. Like he really is a bad guy. Like I'm like I'm just like, let's just call a spade here.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a good man. And this is the type of bullshit that I would expect from him.
Yep, not stuff that actually helps your constituents at all, or anyone in the country. Just BS. So, like I said before, if it's something that it wasn't, not every president gets a day if they get shot at, or assassination attempt, or murdered in their assassination attempt. So, that just shows how they're feeling. We'll go into our local topics now. Make sure to drop a like if you're enjoying the content. Once again, Facebook below in the description. Once again, our first local topic is basically titled GOP Showdown in Trumbull County, a canceled coup against Nikki Fensko. So basically, a dramatic twist in the Trumbull County GOP. There was a planned vote to remove auxiliary chairwoman Nikki Fensko, who abruptly called Nikki Fensko was abruptly called off. And it wasn't your average party squabble. So we'll talk about that. Basically what happened, a special Central Committee meeting was scheduled for July 15th to vote on Nikki Fensko's removal following alleged bylaw breaches. But on July 12th, Chairwoman Julia Schutt, I believe that's how you say her name, canceled the meeting, admitting the vote lacked the two-thirds support needed to pass. So that's one thing I don't like about any side of politics. You don't really just not do something because it's not going to pass. I mean, just at least let it not pass and then, let it happen. The background of controversy, Fensko, who was elected auxiliary chair in June 2022, have faced multiple removal attempts since. None of them succeeded. The latest grievance was all allegations that she assaulted a party secretary. The party secretary.
Allegedly.
Yeah, that's why I said
allegedly.
Allegedly. Keep saying that. Allegations. I thought that's what allegations meant. That's allegedly. Malia
allegedly.
Campbell, by tossing 2 lemons at her during a February meeting. Alleged February
allegedly.
meeting. A claim Fensko denies, and that's also alleged, and is fighting as libel. Voices of a conflict. Julia Schutt. Am I saying that name right? I have no idea. It sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's a name. Explained. I don't think it was looking good for our goal. I want to work with people. When Nikki Fensko fired back, people are tired of the games. Principled leadership that unites, not divides. Personally, if this alleged situation took place, I think that's a little bit more divisive. You got to control yourself in any political environment. especially with your own side. So that's kind of crazy to me. It's a big deal because Wasaga reflects deeper rifts in the Trumbull County DOP, historical electoral wins on one hand, but there's also internal infighting on the other that's intensifying. The bylaw questions loom large. Frenchco was accused of not being a registered Republican for 4 straight years before her election. A requirement C and others dispute. So what's next? Will the party try again next June? There's legal lines are drawn. Frenchco's attorneys have threatened a defamation lawsuit over the Lemon assault claims, which once again, alleged Lemon assault claims. Unity in question. Musa and Frenchco find common ground or keep class in, try to relax. I think once again, like there's division on both sides. People on the right will say, well, people are fighting on the left because they lost. When Biden was president, people on the left were saying, well, look at the right now, because they were fighting like crazy. A lot of them were saying, do we dump Trump or do we keep him? So local party officials face repeated removal votes to let voters decide at elections. That would be kind of interesting. And our bylaw disputes and personality classes hurting the GOP's ability to govern. I kind of agree, because right now, kind of like with the left, when you win an election and actually have like control of most of the branches of government, you talk a lot of stuff, but you should get a lot of stuff done too. My opinion, the left got a little bit more of infrastructure done. Like passing a budget bill wasn't the hardest thing for them, but it kind of shows that kind of even right now with winning, they still don't really the most figured out. A lot of this with like me and Tommy were talking about with immigration, that's creating a lot of infighting on the right, because you have even justices and other people Republican justices telling him not to do stuff, and they're still doing it. It kind of tells us about accountability, transparency, and leadership at the grassroots level in Trumbull County for the GOP. This because of like Nikki trying to control the situation with lawsuits and defamation claims. Because of it, there's a lot into it, but I think it's interesting that it's going to keep happening. And even when she was a county commissioner, Nikki always started stuff almost at every meeting. Sometimes in politics, you have to like realize that you're a part of a group and a team, and it's not really all about you. And you have to make it fair for everyone and give your inputs properly. So this whole alleged situation is just funny with the lemons and her throwing lemons at people at a meeting, but it just kind of shows what's still happening, and that there's still multiple tries to get her out, and it's still going to fail, and they just cancel meetings because it's not going to pass to remove her. So that's always about good local one. We always have some local crazies in politics, and we love talking about. So good to see. What's your input, Tommy?
It's just interesting. It's just interesting, if you're ever feeling bad about yourself, just realize and just be thankful that you're not a lemon at the Trumbull GOP headquarters. You allegedly might have been thrown. So allegedly. Here's the deal. So, the local Republican Party is just in chaos. Okay, so they had a big battle with their chairs race. They've been through several chairs. Their current chair, that Julia Schutt, only won by 1 vote against this individual named Marlia Campbell. Nikki Frenchco, former county commissioner, is some sort of auxiliary chairwoman as part of the party. Then you had that whole incident again where the lemon was allegedly thrown. Then you had this, they're trying to remove her, which they have already tried to do previously once before. So it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Like it almost feels like I'm watching like a sad version of the Kardashians.
Real Housewives of Trumbull County. Real Housewives of Warren.
Real Housewives of the Trumbull County GOP. On next episode, we discover oranges. You know what I mean? Like allegedly oranges. Wait till they find out about coconuts. It's just gonna get real.
Yeah, those hurt. I'm good.
Those will hurt. Yeah. So it's just kind of crazy what's going on there. At the it's just truly crazy.
Yeah.
And
a lot of Nikki's past is just craziness. or some of his stuff on
Oh yeah,
Facebook, just allegedly, a bunch of other
allegedly,
stuff.
yeah. There's a
So
lot of yeah.
I'm good.
So yeah, that's all I really have to say about this, other than it's just sort of interesting to watch, the other side of the aisle, sort of run around with their hair on fire over Nikki Frenchko.
Yeah.
And and I'll give Nikki this. She won. She won this. She's still she's still on the committee. Um,
Yep.
so
She had enough people backing her. I don't know
yeah,
how.
like congratulations, I guess. Like you're still on there. You won. So
Were a lot of people on vacation or something? I don't know. Can't make it a
lots of
Teams
personal phone
meeting.
calls, probably. Lots of personal phone calls. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like sometimes if you don't have a lot of people at the meeting, a lot of people on vacation, kind of hard to even pass it. But
Oh yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's once a year meeting, I feel like you should be able to make it, and then that kind of serves it, like we're saying, yeah. She must got people
When
behind
you go on
her.
the next,
Yeah, we can go to
you ready for the
our
next
next
topic? Do you
local
want
topic. Let me find it real quick
to?
because
Okay.
my thing keeps moving on me. All right.
Okay.
Oh, you can start this one too,
Okay.
Tommy
Let me
boy.
know when you're ready. Yep. So Ohio lawmakers launch bid to override three of Ohio Governor Mike DeWine's property tax votes. So this override vote is planned July 21st, 2025. Excuse me. So Ohio Speaker Matt Huffman announced the intent to override three key property tax related line item vetoes in the state budget during a special session that's going to be occurring on July 21st. For those of you that don't know, the Ohio governor, unlike the president of the United States, has the ability to line item veto, meaning he doesn't have to veto a whole law. He can just strike out a particular sentence or a particular word he doesn't like, and then continue to sign the whole bill. Very unlike the president.
Hmm.
In the late 90s, early 2000s, Congress tried to give President Bill Clinton a line item veto. It was found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So it's one of those weird state law things.
Okay.
Um, so so um, okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So there's three vetoes that they're going to be targeting to try to overturn, but there may be more in future legislative sessions. So the three vetoes that they're trying to overturn are: number one is the governor vetoed county control over voter approved levies. So which would allow would allow county budget commissions to roll back levies even if the voters approved them. So the governor vetoed that provision. He vetoed the provision which modified school district mileage calculations, specifically adjust the 20 mil floor to include emergency/fixed sum and income tax levies. So that would just be an overall reduction in school funding. He did veto that as well.
Oh wow.
Ban on replacement levies, prohibits school districts from placing replacement fixed sum emergencies or combined income property tax levies on ballots. So he did overturn that as well. So um, the Governor Mike DeWine, opposed these vetoes provisions, stating that implementing them would create a quote unquote huge problem for local school and governments.
Hmm.
He emphasized that while property tax reform is needed, it should not be achieved by destabilizing public schools. And then he
Yeah.
established a working group to try to take a different approach to this. But regardless of the governor's efforts, the Ohio House is going to be meeting on the July 21st to overturn these line item vetoes. The Senate has not currently scheduled anything.
Okay.
From what I've been reading in the newspaper and like what you've been talking about earlier, they don't schedule these meetings and not cancel them unless they know they have the votes. Like you were talking about, when it comes in relation to the Nikki Frenchko county Republican type situation. So these line item vetoes are likely going to be overturned, I would suspect, at least by the House, and then they have to go to the Ohio Senate as well.
Hmm.
I want to highlight, the Ohio Education Association, their president, described these reforms as half-baked, stating that they would worsen budget gaps and create undue pressure on schools. I think that's absolutely correct. We need to be encouraging and, building up our public schools. Representative Lauren McNally, who represents Youngstown, contended the reforms are drastic, lack due vetting, and warned that fast tracking them is unfair to local communities. I think that's also true.
Mm-hmm.
So just sort of keep an eye on this. The governor did seemingly try to do the right thing, but unfortunately, we have a state house in Columbus that is even more extreme than our already terrible and extreme governor, and we're just gonna have to see exactly what gets overturned and what doesn't, and hopefully that there will be a long-term solution to providing adequate funding to our public schools, which play such an essential role in our society. This also wasn't on the news story. This is just related to property tax. So I'll discuss this in 30 seconds. They're also trying to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot. Some representatives are that's going to do some things to try to lower property taxes. It's a Republican proposal that they're trying to do, and there's also another proposal from a third party who's just trying to eliminate property taxes altogether. So property tax right now in Columbus is the big thing, and what was in the budget's bad. Thankfully, the governor vetoed it, but it looks like they're going to overturn the veto. So just keep an eye on this.
Yep, and like being at my local council meeting today, they were talking about. I think they talked about different aspects of it, but still, I think some of those aspects they didn't like coincided. But a lot of local communities are writing the local for the state house to say certain aspects of this we don't like. Some of it was like, I think it was like a lot of it just becomes to more county control as well for finances and stuff like that. And that's just, locals want to keep that in their pockets as well. All county guys are kind of not really good with finances suing themselves, so I don't want them doing anything else with the local money, in my opinion.
You got anything else to say on this?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, kind of like that. Real quick, I guess. Instead of like taxing corporations or even just changing like local income tax, they just want to change property tax so like we get some relief to inflation that's going right now. And that's just not the right answer. Like we even see like DeWine says, okay, this isn't the right answer. So kind of like with the Democrats saying like sometimes like groupthink isn't good. So that's because like they had an idea and they think they can go with it and keep going, and people say it's okay. It might not be the best for everyone, because like even local communities, rural communities, this will affect pretty bad. So they gotta be smart with that.
And they're just trying to take a hammer to it. And full disclosure, I'm by no means an expert on school funding. Like I know a little bit, but there are definitely more qualified people to talk about this than me. But there was this fair school funding formula that was enacted several years ago that was bipartisan in nature, that seemingly provided a workable solution for school funding in the state of Ohio. They're trying to get rid of that. The Ohio Republicans are, so they're also, pushing their voucher school programs, private religious schools, et cetera, which just siphon away money from public schools. Now they're doing this stuff in the budget, at the end of the day, this stuff's all bad. We need to be, investing in our students and in our public education, and not taking money out of it. That's just what we need to be doing. And steps like these are, ultimately, harmful.
Yeah, less private school vouchers, more public school funding is how I see it. That's where our money should be going.
Yeah.
And people should realize that. Like, I don't know. Even if I had all the money in the world, my kid's probably going to a private school, and I'm just gonna hide it. Like, I'll just have a crappy car to pick him up. Not a crappy, but like mid, maybe a Volvo, and then a
Volvo, an XC90, XC90,
something like that. Maybe even just a sedan, so they think I'm just like an accountant, and I'll pick them up and be like, all right, let's go to our normal house, but we don't got a normal house. Because like, I don't know, private kids, they definitely get a better education in certain aspects, but they don't get like a better social education. And there's certain aspects of public school, like Mia for robotics, that some private schools are better if you want to go to a private STEM school. But most private schools don't, like religious private schools don't really care about STEM and certain things, because learning too much of science kind of just disproves the whole thing, so they don't want to talk about that. But a little of a side note. Hope you guys enjoyed the funniest topics and the last, 4, 2 local and 2 national topics. We really hope that like people actually go and keep messaging your state house reps and even your state senators, because it's going to be on their table eventually, about this change in property taxes, especially if Tommy's saying removal of property taxes, we definitely not need to have. Because without a way better solution of paying for these schools, removing it to property taxes isn't a good idea. So I was happy we got an episode less than an hour this week. That's good to see. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like, follow us on Facebook. It's in our description. Share any of our content on there. And all of our video on demands for our past shows are on there too, because the same live link for the past shows will take you to a video on demand, just videos of our last shows. Anything else before we get going, Tommy?
No, just thanks everyone for listening. I'll be back next week for episode 20. Hopefully there is still a world to report upon. Hopefully the world's not completely engulfed in flames. I'm not placing any bets, but hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about.
Agreed. And hopefully nothing too crazy is happening here in America. Hope everyone has a great Monday.
Nuclear war!
Get some sleep. Great start to the rest of your weeks. It's going to be hot and rainy. Not as hot as 90s, so that's a little bit nice. Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye.